In the Microsoft multi-user environment, we're going to have some very special folders in the profile system that we're going to use to create all new user profiles. The other one we're going to use to make sure that everyone has access to the same shortcuts and application data that we've installed every time we install a new application. Those two folders are going to be in the Windows Vista and to the Windows 8 operating systems are going to be public and default. Public is a very complex concept. First of all, in the public folder, we're going to put shortcuts that are going to be shared by everyone who logs on. At the same time, in the C root directory is going to be a very special hidden folder that's going to be called program data. And this is going to hold every single installation of software's application-specific information. This is a critical directory, and notice it's in the root directory of C, and it is hidden in system. So it's normally not viewed or seen when you look in the root directory. You'll see program files 86, but you normally won't see program data. These two folders, program data and the public folder, are very critical in allowing all users to see installation software and application-specific information. The default folder is basically a template. In it is all the folders and files that are needed for every new user that logs on. So we're going to use the special folder with all of its subdirectories and files as a template so that every time a new user logs on, we're going to take the contents of the default folder and recreate and make a new user when they log on. With Windows XP, these same critical folders were in existence except their names changed. First of all, the default is in XP was called the default user. So the same functionality. This is the folder that has all the files and folders and everything that we need to create a new user. This is the profile template location. It just has a different name. It's called default user rather than in default. In XP, the public doesn't exist. They now use what's called the all users. Now in XP, this particular folder contained all the shortcuts and all the application-specific information, unlike Vista and Windows 7 and Windows 8, where we separated into two separate folders. In XP, it's all found here. Everything is found in one location. Now there are some special profiles. Most of you will not have to worry about them, but I do want to bring them to your attention because as you get into server, they do come in handy if you're aware of them and you know that they're there. One is called the local system profile. There's a special account on Windows that is called the system account. It has a profile, and notice it's actually in the same location as your registry files. It's called the system profile folder. This is the system, the user account system, and it has its own profile, and it is what runs the operating system when no one's logged on. There's another one called local service, and notice I've given you its location for that profile. There's also a network service profile location. These you're not going to mess with or use very often, but it is nice to know they're there. Occasionally on a server, you may have to modify these. So local profiles are what we're going to spend most of our time focused on. This is what you use at home. This is what you're using at school. This is what most people use at work. We're going to find out that as we get into roaming and mandatory and some of the other special profiles, they're not used as often. We're making you aware of them for test purposes, but local profile is primarily where we're going to live and breathe. Local profiles are common. They're stored on your local PC hard drive. They're going to keep all your user-specific environmental information, application information. We're going to keep them on the local hard drive. Here's my Windows 8 box, and let's go take a look. So here's my special folder for creating new users, and here is my public folder that is going to be shared by everyone who logs on. And then here's my folder that represents all the profile information when I'm logged on. So let me show you how I can take a look at this profile a little bit different, and I can see its size. I can actually even delete these profiles. So I'm going to do a Windows X and pull up my menu options here. I'm going to go to Control Panel. In Windows 7, you'll know how to do that. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to go to System, and then I'm going to go to Advanced System. And notice under here I have a section called User Profiles. So I'm going to open that up, and you can see here's my profile, and you can actually see how large it is. And I can change. You could see that if I had logged on with different rights, I could actually delete it, copy it to it, change type. So there's some very, very interesting information. You can also see that my template is about 1.3 megabytes. Mine is very large because I put a lot of stuff on my desktop and in my documents. So here's where you can actually go look at profiles. You can delete profiles, and you can change the types of profiles that they are. So now we're looking at a profile structure. Documents is a location where your critical user data. Most of you understand that documents is a folder that typically both applications assume this is where we're going to save the user's data. So when you install applications, they have a tendency to use documents as the default saving location when you're running that application. Favorites is where IE shortcuts are saved. App data is where we store a lot of application user specific information. So here's my documents. You're wondering what this one is, and we'll talk about that one. Favorites. Favorites where we store IE. Notice Google has to put their, if you use Google Chrome or Firefox, they have to locate their shortcuts for the browser in a different location. And then a very critical directory in your profile is app data. This is very important. Microsoft uses this heavily to store all your application specific information. This was really redesigned in Vista, Windows 7, and Windows 8. So we'll take a look at that later. Now, last of all is these folders with this funky little, it looks like a shortcut icon. All of those are what we call junction points or symbolic links for backward compatibility. In other words, they look and act like folders, but they're not. They simply direct you to another folder. When Microsoft made all of these changes in the profile structure of Vista, Windows 7, Windows 8, they had to build in backward compatibility. So when you see these folders with strange shortcut-like icons, those are what we call junction points or symbolic links. Notice I see this when I'm looking at my profile on Windows 8. I see this very special junction point and symbolic link. And these are for backward compatibility to XP. So when programs install, instead of seeing a default user, we don't have that really on Windows 7 and Windows 8. But we put up what looks like a default user. So if you're an XP application, you see the folder that you expect to see in XP. But it actually redirects you to this guy, the default folder here. This folder redirects you to the publics folder, and we'll see this later on. Microsoft had to build a backward compatibility functionality into the Windows 7, Vista, Windows 8 profile structure, and that was done using an NTFS file system feature called symbolic links and junction points. These two features allow you to make what looks like a folder, and notice documents and settings. That's what we expect in XP. It looks like it's here, and this is a Windows 7 or actually a Windows 8 profile, but it actually isn't. It actually points to its new location, which is users in Windows 7. So here I've got a number of these very special NTFS junction points and symbolic links that allow backward compatibility for our older applications that we're going to install on a new operating system. I've opened up my profile. I'm at the users directory, and I'm going to use the shift key and right mouse click on users, and I'm going to open a command line window right here at the users folder. I'm going to use a directory command, dir, and I'm going to use a argument, capital A, :L. And that feature allows me to look at junction points and symbolic links. And so I'm going to hit enter. And if you'll notice, the all users up here, all users, is a symbolic link, and it's actually pointing to program data in the C root directory. So anything that is destined to the all users folder will actually be put in the C: program data folder. Notice the default user is a junction point, and anything that is sent to the default user folder is actually redirected to the C users default directory. I want you to stop this and think about what we've just shown you. This is a very cool feature. This is an NTFS function called symbolic link and junction points that actually allows you to create, quote, folders and point them to a different location. You can actually do this in the command line and actually do your own symbolic links and junction points. But here you can see Microsoft using it to create some backward compatibility. All students need to get familiar with the basic folders in an XP local profile and a Windows 7, Windows 8, Vista profile structure. You need to understand what you're looking at when you see a profile. Every user, when their profile is created, also gets a dedicated user registry Hive. This is a registry key that is loaded into memory every time they log on. This is what makes a profile what it is. The magic of profiles is all about the registry key. So ntuser.dat is a critical registry key. Many times it gets corrupted and it's going to cause havoc with your profile. So many times you're going to have to go into system properties, actually move all the user's data, their documents, their pictures, etc. out of their profile, delete their profile, and allow them to create a new profile. And the reason you had to do all that was because the registry file became corrupted. It's really the registry key that does all the magic of things like, notice your icon around your favorites, your little desktop icons. Where did all that come from? Well, that didn't happen by magic. That is all produced and stored in your registry key when you log on. All of the synced folders and the libraries, and we'll talk about some of that. How does your application know where to save your data? How does Word know where to save your custom dictionary? All of that is stored in your profile, in your registry key. So the registry key is the glue, the magic, whatever you want to call it, that makes the profile so dynamic and so powerful. In the profile structure, starting with Vista and Windows 7 and Windows 8, under app data there were some special folders created. One was called local, one is local low, and one is roaming. When we began to talk about roaming, this was a special folder that was created for user-specific application data and settings that should and must roam with the user. So when we design a roaming user, this is going to be a critical folder. Local separated items that were in the profile that shouldn't roam. So one of the features that Vista, Windows 7, and 8 really helped was if you were going to implement roaming profiles, this new change was strategic. So if anything is found in the local folder, it's usually too large or should not roam with the user. Last of all was the local low. If we have something running in our browser that we really don't trust, it is going to run and have access to the local low folder in our profile. It can run, it can write, it can store data, but we don't trust it, and this is where it's going to be at. This is a quick look at the changes between XP's profile structure and Windows Vista through Windows 8. You're going to have a chance to look at this in detail. All right, stop the video, take a look at the slide, and figure out which number represents your level of understanding right now. So exactly how does Windows create a profile structure with all this complexity every time a new user logs on? It uses what's called a profile template. In Vista Windows 7, we find that that folder is called the default folder. So every time a new user logs on to any version of Windows past XP, the default folder stores a hierarchical set of folders and files that will be used to create a new user's profile. In XP, that same functionality is now in a folder called default users. Notice there isn't a lot of difference, but it's important that you know the difference. There's a cool capability of customizing this template, this set of folders, so that every user can get a specific customized profile. There's a link here on the slides that you can go to Microsoft support site and actually see the step-by-step. Does 2 equal 1? Well, in the world of profiles, it does. When you log on, your local profile and some public information, something that is shared by everybody, has to be merged in what's known as the active profile. Both Vista, Windows 7, Windows 8 do it differently than XP. Here is just some of the many applications that I have installed on my Windows 8 box. Every one of these application developers want a very, very specific environment when their application launches. Number one, they want to interact with the user. They want the user to be able to customize their applications and save that information, so every time they go back to Word, PowerPoint, whatever that application is, it's customized for them. They want a very user-friendly experience. You just purchased that software. So having that ability to interact with all these application data is very important to profiles. This is where the critical folder called public and all users comes to play. This is a special folder where application specific information from when you install these applications, they can allow the user to customize their application, save data correctly, and the application will work like it's supposed to. Now in Vista Windows 7, we're going to find that this is much more complex. It's not just one folder. In the XP world, it was all saved in one folder called All Users. So in the XP world, it's in one folder. In Vista Windows 7, it's now in 2. Starting with the publics folder in the Windows 7 Windows 7, Windows 8 Vista, the publics folder holds a series of directories where shortcuts can be placed, so that if there are documents to be shared by everyone, you would put them in the publics document. If there were downloads that were to be shared by everyone who logs on, and on, music, pictures, video. But the application-specific information was not stored here, unlike XP. So with our new user operating systems, some major changes were made. Program data, a hidden system folder in the root directory of C, became the new location for all application user-specific information. Where this was used to be saved in the All Users folder in XP, it's now split. We have the public folder for shortcuts, and the program data is where we save all application-specific information. Notice we have some of those backward compatibility function components. We see some junction points, some symbolic links. So this is where we have that backward compatibility to XP applications that are installed on Vista, Windows 7, Windows 8.